Hola, Michael.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Bien, bien, ¿y tú?
Oh, muy bien, muy bien.
Gracias y bienvenidos
Gracias.
in San Diego.
Mhm.
Michael's here, my cousin. If anyone remembers, what did we decide? What episode?
8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michael was on episode 8. We were really new at podcasting, and he was getting ready to go on a trip to South America. And we sat down and had a chat. And if you haven't heard that episode, go back and listen because I was super inspired by how you were raised, being bilingual and going through a school system bilingual. But what was really interesting was your parents weren't bilingual, which is really inspiring, right? Because you can be bilingual without having family members know how to do it. So has it been a year since you left?
Not quite.
Not quite a year.
I left in September, so
Okay.
it's been a little under a year.
So you left in September and you were gone for that whole semester until
about
Christmas.
4 months.
About 4 months. So how was the trip and how has been being back?
Oh, it was fantastic. I still sometimes wish I was down there instead of back. But I picked up and just kind of had a one-way ticket down there and landed in Bogota, Colombia, and just went from there, and it was great.
And you decided to choose South America because you were, your second year in college, right? You were going into your third year of college, and you wanted to do a gap year, gap semester, kind of like an independent study abroad, right?
Well, a lot of students study abroad, and so that was kind of in lieu of studying abroad. I just decided to travel abroad instead, and that worked out really well.
You said speaking Spanish kind of dictated where you wanted to go. Was that still the case when you were down there?
Yeah, so a lot of people down there went to Brazil, and I definitely do want to go to Brazil at some point in my life, but I felt like this trip was good for just the Spanish-speaking countries.
So you did, what are all the countries you ended up visiting?
So I started in Colombia, went to Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Chile, Argentina, and Uruguay.
Uruguay. How do you say Uruguay?
Uruguay.
That's how they say it there?
Yeah.
That's always a tough one for me. And you started in Bogota, right? And we had connected you with our Spanish teacher because he's from Colombia. And what was your favorite highlights of Colombia?
Definitely the northern coast.
Really?
I learned to scuba dive up there, and that was just phenomenal. It's the first time I'd ever been, so new experiences are always great for me. And I ended up scuba diving also in Ecuador and Peru as well.
Just after you learned?
Yeah, after I had learned.
What kind of prep did you do before you left for this trip? A lot?
Almost none. I didn't even know
just
where I was
budgeting,
staying the
basically.
first night.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So, I left with a couple $1,000s and just said, as far as this
one-way
gets me-
ticket?
Yeah, one-way ticket. We'll see if I was open to the idea of staying somewhere and, hitting a spot where I just loved and staying, and I ended up just wanting to do a little bit of everything.
Really?
So.
And you did, what were most of your night accommodations? Did you do like couch surfing, or did you do hostels or Airbnbs?
I did couch surfing a couple times. I never did an Airbnb, but pretty much I would say 95% of the time I was in a hostel.
Oh, okay.
So
through those countries, the hostels were pretty, you were like totally comfortable in the situations.
Yeah. I always did, it was between like 4 and at the largest 20, but 20 was a little abnormal. Dorms.
For people inside of them. Okay.
Yeah, so most of the time it was 6 to 8 people in a dorm.
Inside each, and you get your own bed?
Yeah, you get your own bed and a little storage locker usually.
Oh, okay.
And it's a great way to meet people, in between going to bed or going out, and people are so friendly. I think the first night I got in, this guy just had gotten into bed and was like, all right, I'm going to chill for tonight and go to bed. And he's like, hey, do you want to come out and find some trouble with me? Like me and a couple of guys are going out to get some beers.
You're like, no, I was trying to just sleep a little bit.
Yeah. And I was like, no, ask me again the next night. And then the next night we went out, and I actually hung out with those guys for about a week.
For a few nights.
Yeah.
Where were everyone you met, where were they from?
All over the place. So these guys were from Mexico. I met people from all over Europe. A bunch of Australians love to travel.
Yeah.
So,
always see Australians. They're super good about getting around the world.
And then towards the end, a lot of Israelis.
Okay.
Because they have about a year off in between, or a lot of them take a year off after their military service.
Yeah.
And decide to travel. And so
full year. What was the percentage you felt like you spoke Spanish in that, how many months of that, 4 or 5 months of time?
Probably, because speaking to it flowed. So sometimes, in Colombia I was speaking a lot more Spanish.
But then if you made like a friend from Denmark, you guys would speak in the common language would be English for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I'm meeting someone from Europe that doesn't speak Spanish, or from, Australia, of course we're going to speak English. But the first week I didn't speak any English, probably.
Pretty much only in Spanish.
Only in Spanish because I was hanging out with those Mexican guys. And then I met actually someone from Denmark, and we traveled for a couple of months together. And so that ended up being a lot of English.
I just threw that one out there. You did meet someone from Denmark.
I did, yeah. A lot of English with her. And,
I feel like I want to meet a good Denmark person. That's
super
awesome.
blonde, blue eyes. Yeah,
Love
typical
it.
Denmark.
Yeah. You guys traveled, you said, for about 2 months? Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. She kind of joined me.
She probably knew a few other.
Spanish.
Did she speak any other languages?
English.
Oh, just English, and then what do they speak
Danish.
there? Danish. Okay.
Yeah.
So no Spanish.
No, she spoke a little German.
Because a lot of times you get Europeans, I feel like, are really good at knowing a couple languages. Yeah. So when you traveled from each country, did you end up setting up where you were going to stay before you left? Or was it land in the country and it just kind of unfolded where you were going to go?
Yeah, it was more of the latter.
Really?
I would sometimes, before I hopped on a bus or something to go to the next
Google
city.
or...
Yeah, I would just Google. I'd go on Hostel World or Couchsurfing and see if, there were any very positively reviewed places. And then just, once I got there, walk around a little bit and find a place to stay. And
what did you end up doing? This might be a good tip for some people. What did you end up doing for cell service or for didn't you use something different other than just turning your phone on?
So I actually just did airplane mode the entire 4 months. Yeah, I didn't have any cell service.
So you did Wi-Fi everywhere.
Yeah, Wi-Fi everywhere.
And found cafes and...
So the difference between pretty much the rest of the world and the U.S. is that all the restaurants and cafes and hotels, hostels, everywhere has Wi-Fi. So if you go to a restaurant...
U.S. really doesn't do that.
No, they don't. Not as much because everyone has cell service. But a lot of...
There's no demand about it, really.
Yeah, a lot of people here or down there didn't have a cell phone plan. They would just go from Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi.
Right. Yeah. Did you learn any Herga while you were there? Any slang?
A little bit. I mean, each country...
Did you feel like each country
has different
Did you
words.
feel like one country had more slang than the other for you? Like where you were just like, wow, I don't understand that. Did you ever feel like you didn't understand?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. But you comprehend quite a bit at your level, right? You've been learning since you were in kindergarten?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I felt like I understood everything. There were some places where they mixed a little bit the indigenous language with Spanish.
Yes.
So like in Colombia, they spoke like a little Quechua, and Peru.
Yes. Mexico does that a lot. Okay. And in Argentina, they're known to kind of want to have that European sound to. Did you notice their accent was more European? Was it cleaner than like listening to, Colombians are known to have a pretty amazing accent too, but like maybe cleaner than Chile or somewhere like that?
Yeah, Chile was probably the hardest to understand.
Really? Yeah.
Just because
I've heard that a lot.
Shorten a lot of their words and stuff. But no, the Argentinian accent was just more unique than anything. It definitely didn't sound Spanish. They use a lot of different words like vos.
And they do vos, right?
Yeah. But that's more of like a you instead of you all. Oh. So it'd be like, ¿A dónde vas vos?
Do you use that in Spain?
No, that's in Spain. They use it as like vosotros. That's like you all.
Yes.
But
down there they use it.
For
you.
Yeah.
So for like example, what were you gonna say? What would be like an example how they use it?
Like y vos, like and you. So that's like how are you doing?
Instead of the to form.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I didn't hear that in Chile, but
no, it's definitely more like young people. And it's like common, familiar,
very like casual conversation, and so no really struggle speaking there then, right? Because you never got stuck on a bus going, I don't know where I'm going, or
But there were a couple words here that someone would start saying like "y vos," and I would have to ask like, what does that particular thing mean? I know in Colombia, every time they would serve you, they would say "a la orden," and I was like, what does that mean? Like. Because literally it means something. It's just kind of, oh, here you go. Like
they're just
you're welcome. Kinda,
I had a couple of times like that in Chile too, like where I would get thrown off, and all they were asking was, "Did you enjoy it?" Or it was just their way of saying it, or like, even some of the things that, like I asked for a water with a lime. And they use lemon a lot down there. And I go on and on about the whole lemon and lime debate around the world. But it was so funny because he goes, limon sutil. And I'm like, I'm thinking there's this whole word. I don't know what he's saying. But all he was just saying was like the style of lime. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's so funny because I came back and I was telling Ben a lot about the trip and how anything I had struggled or got caught up on was because I was overthinking it.
Yeah.
I was thinking this was like some
More
verb
complex,
I didn't
yeah.
know or something complex. And like you said, it's just all he's saying is like, there you go, enjoy,
Yeah.
like, or something really simple. So that's kind of the funny thing out of the whole thing. But so then your parents came and met you down at Christmas.
They did, yeah. So they came a week and a half before Christmas. They met me down in the southern tip of Chile, so in Patagonia region.
Yeah.
We did some hiking around there. Apparently, for my parents, it was the hardest hike they'd ever done.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they were.
What part of Patagonia were you in?
So we were on the W Trail.
And you were on the Argentinian side.
We were on the Chilean side.
Oh, you were on the Chilean
yeah.
side. Okay.
So we were in Torres del Paine.
I have a really cool bag that I got
Yeah.
not from there, but like from the airport in Chile.
Yeah, so we went there and we did just one small leg of.
And they were dying.
Yeah, and they were.
And your parents are in pretty good shape.
I know. That's what I thought, and they were absolutely.
Maybe it was
dying
the
by then.
altitude or something, or like
It's pretty close to sea level, yeah. My mom wanted to blame it on that, but I was like, yeah, you can't really.
Me and her think alike. I'm like,
Yeah,
it's the altitude.
yeah, that was
And
probably 3,000 feet.
I saw a really cool video your mom, my aunt, sent of you ordering wine or learning about wine. I think you were in Mendoza or somewhere.
Yeah.
Did you go to Mendoza?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you were in Mendoza, and she was explaining all the wines to you, and your mom was like, look, he was speaking Spanish. Like,
Yeah.
she was all, because she's just blown away by
Yeah.
it, you know what I mean? But yeah, did you, are you much of a wine drinker?
I think now. I mean,
It's hard not to
yeah,
be
it's
once you're
hard.
down there, huh?
When I was there, I mean, we went tasting pretty much every day.
When your
my
your parents
were
came
there,
down,
And
right?
I did a little bit before they came, but
There's kind of juxtaposed between your
Yeah.
trip and then when your parents visited you, huh?
Definitely,
They're
definitely.
like, let's stay at this beautiful resort on the water. You're like, I've been staying in a hostel for
Yeah.
3 months. Like,
it's definitely a nice way to end it. I think it would have been hard to start with that and then go.
hands
Yeah.
down. I always say that because one trip I remember specifically, I flew to Italy and we landed in Rome and we did
Mm-hmm.
the long travel day and made it to the beach. And we had this amazing, slow, beautiful beach trip. And
Yeah.
then we went to Rome. And I think if I would have switched it, it would have been more like I would have liked Rome more, you know,
Yeah.
because I really do think you're so adventurous when you first land somewhere.
You got to do the adventurous thing.
Don't you think? Yeah. And then at the end, you
vacation.
need to go
Yeah.
do wine tasting and lay at the
Yeah.
resorts. And I always feel like there's kind of an art to how you plan your trip too.
Yeah.
So where was your favorite place?
I go back and forth between a couple places. I think different places were great for different things.
Right.
So in Colombia, I loved getting to speak Spanish nearly all of the time and scuba diving or
Yeah.
having warm weather.
Colombia was more raw, you said,
Yeah.
for you, right? It wasn't as developed as
developed.
Argentina. And
Definitely.
Uruguay, you said, was really developed?
Yeah, so Argentina, Uruguay, Chile, all the roads are paved.
Yeah,
which
Chile,
sounds
like,
silly to
No, but it's
yeah.
true. Like, I've been to Nicaragua, and Chile, like, was not a third world
No.
country. It's very developed. I mean, there's parts, obviously, that probably are, but
Well, everywhere has more rural parts.
Yeah.
And, even the U.S.
in Colombia, you still felt
Yeah.
like had the cobblestone streets and the dirt roads. And
Yeah, definitely, and definitely that Latin
vibe there.
The Caribbean Latin
Yeah.
vibe in Colombia versus Argentina. It was definitely more European. Buenos Aires was one of my favorite places, probably my
Really?
favorite city.
And you love
visited.
Europe too. You spent
Yeah.
a lot of time there.
So
So that was one of your favorite cities.
yeah, definitely.
I can't believe we haven't talked about the food yet. What about the food in all those places? Like,
So-
was it still Buenos Aires?
The food was not good in Colombia. I mean, they do a lot of
Really? Yeah.
do a lot of soups and potatoes.
Mhm.
Corn is huge.
Yeah.
but it's a lot of bland.
Elote?
food.
Is it elote in Colombia? What do they say for corn?
Maize.
They just say maíz.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Elote is like the corn on the cob.
Okay. I may have just flown over
Right.
my head.
Well, we're close to Mexico too, so
Yeah.
we have like different. I've heard food is very hard to translate sometimes because you have
There's different varieties. and
right,
stuff.
like in Chile, palta was avocado,
Yeah.
or instead of aguacate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely. So that was kind of bland. I had some really good food in Peru.
Yeah.
Some really great
Peru's coming
Peruvian
up
food.
as a foodie spot.
It
The
is,
cities
yeah.
are like
Especially, I mean, I had some of the best meals of my entire life for $10,
In
$15.
Peru.
Yeah, in Peru.
had you already been to Machu Picchu and
No.
all that? And so you did that trip.
Yes,
Okay.
I did. Yeah, I did. That was one of the highlights of my entire 4-month period was
Well,
hiking to Machu Picchu.
I was going to ask because, anytime something gets put into, what is it, a UNICEF site now, or
Yeah.
it's like World Wonder, it gets overrun. Would you still say it has this like simplicity and majesticness to it that you could go and not feel like you're there visiting with a ton of other American tourists? Or is it starting to get
It was really touristy once we got there. I think the experience for me was definitely the journey there. So I
Okay.
did this 5-day hike.
Was this the one where you took the bus? Did you take the bus down to Machu Picchu?
No, I don't think
No.
so.
Okay. You did a hike going to there.
So I did. It was a whole thing. We started, on the bright and early at like 4 a.m. on one day, and we hiked.
For someone who doesn't like
really,
mornings.
really far. Yeah, for someone who struggles with mornings, as you found out this morning.
Yeah. As he's sleeping in, I'm like, knock, knock.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah.
So 5 a.m., you're
No,
on
it's
vacation,
tough,
or you're
yeah.
traveling.
Yeah, we had Halloween a couple days before, and we were thinking about leaving the day after Halloween, and I was like, no, we got to spend one day of recovering.
Yeah, we need recovery in between.
Yeah, no, but the hike was just absolutely beautiful. I'll show you some pictures later.
Oh, yeah.
But, we hiked up it ended up being up to like 14,000 feet to go over this pass, and then back down into the jungle, and the terrain just changed so much along the way. And then when we actually hiked up to Machu Picchu, we were the absolute first ones in the park that day.
Because you started so early.
Right. So the day of
Was that with a tour?
it
Or was it self-guided?
It was a guided tour. But it was not one that I planned ahead. It was one that I kind of
Stumbled
walked around
upon.
the city of Cusco.
Yeah.
And I asked just from door to door, like, okay, what price could you offer me? What is that going to include? And I found me and a friend I was with this tour, and the guide ended up being phenomenal. She just had a blast with us.
Like new,
Yeah,
definitely.
she just had so much fun.
That's cool.
We did like hot springs along the way, and we like swam, and it was great. So that was definitely one of the highlights, and I think getting in there first was really cool because we saw because she kind of walked us around the park before people
everyone got to that spot where the picturesque spot where you're just
but then literally 2 hours later it was packed because 5,000 people a day are up there visiting. So I did this hike up to, it's called the Sun Gate, where the Inca Trail ends.
Oh yeah, okay.
And so I hiked up there, and you kind of get this far away view of Machu Picchu.
Wow.
And then when I came back down, it was just packed, and I was like, I would not want to come up here at midday,
That's, I mean, even some of the ruins in Mexico, we found the same to be true. Like, get there early, and it seems so simple, but unless you have a kid that wakes you up at 6 a.m., early doesn't come on vacation or on a trip sometimes. And so it is really true. Like, get there early, because come 10, 11 o'clock, even noon, that's when it's usually hot wherever you're going.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if Machu Picchu had any warmth to it when you were there, but
warm.
it either gets too hot or it's just like overrun to where you're like, okay, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice when you get that most of it in that early part of the day.
Definitely.
But yeah. So as far as self-traveling or self-guided travel, do you have any tips for anyone who would be going somewhere by themselves? Like whether it's apps or things like that, or just kind of like some inspiration for people to do it?
Absolutely. So, I mean, doing it the way I did it with hostels,
Yeah.
the best advice I found was always from other people. Because other people had either been going the opposite direction of you and had already done things.
They'd already
that
been
were
to
cool.
Chile or been to...
Exactly. So they had the best advice, and, guidebooks. And I had a guidebook, and I had, the internet. And oftentimes those were a little bit dated, just because things change very quickly, and some of the infrastructure, for example, on a website wasn't super set up.
Yeah, and people, when they write blogs, I've noticed too, I'll write down a restaurant and like it doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly.
And being almost too strict with where you're going to go have lunch just becomes, you end up doing
it's
this.
very tedious.
Yeah, you're looking for it all the time. Yeah.
So the best advice I found was through other people. But that's also because I think a lot of the people I was with had the same mentality of like, I want to do hikes or, nature things, or I want to go to the city to find the good party or whatever. And so
I don't think we touched on that. What was your big goal about going down there? Was it to...
It was vacation.
Oh, it was everything.
Yeah,
okay.
It was everything.
Yeah.
So I think...
Self-discovery.
Yeah, self-discovery.
College kid, right?
Yeah. Semester abroad.
You did much more... I mean, I've always known you're outdoorsy, but I was surprised how many outdoorsy things you did between... Didn't you end up camping in Patagonia?
Yeah, I did.
And doing those 5-day hikes and stuff. And so I do think there's sometimes where you're just like, you hit all the cities, or like I feel like yours was very outdoors.
I did a little bit of both. I always hit the big city in every country, just because
to get a style of...
it gives you a good vibe of the country and the...
What? So in Colombia, what is it Bogota?
Yeah, Bogota and Medellin.
Medellin is not...
They both are.
Okay.
They're different, but they're both the kind of two big hubs.
Okay.
And I went to both of those cities. Medellin was one of my favorite places.
Even in movies, I'm always like, I
Well, yeah, Narcos. I mean, they do those
Oh,
pan shots
yeah.
overhead, and you're just like, wow, it's beautiful, and it is like
It
that.
is like that, yeah.
Yeah, we got up on. They have some trams now that go up the hills,
Oh, that's cool.
and being able to see the whole city and all the barrios from
Yeah.
there is just beautiful. Yeah.
Ever have any moments where you felt unsafe?
Not really.
Yeah, that's such a question
yeah.
we get, me and Ben, all the time, even when we cross the border, go to
Yeah.
Mexico, is safety.
And people worried about that a lot,
And
before
it
I
borders Venezuela, which has
Yeah.
had a lot of crazy stuff going
Yeah.
on. But
But I even had friends who went to. I didn't end up going. I met some people that had
yeah.
gone to
Oh,
Venezuela.
really? They
and,
did cross over and go.
Yeah, they said it was. I think from a Western perspective, we tend to overhype these things.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Our
we see those
media.
people as other,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it just took. Everyone's don't go out at night alone somewhere you don't know. Like you wouldn't do that here in San Diego,
No.
and you wouldn't do it down there. So I think it's
Yeah.
just being smart traveling.
Plop yourself in the
Yeah.
middle of some barrio. Even in
Yeah.
Chicago, like, let's talk
Yeah.
about how scary
Right.
some of our U.S. cities are,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, in St. Louis, I've had more people I know get mugged in St. Louis where I live,
see?
2 blocks from my house,
Yeah.
than I had met traveling South America.
One of the biggest things, especially learning Spanish and really loving Latin culture, is you have a very clear vision if you've lived in the U.S. what Spanish speaking is like. And a lot of times, and I don't mean this the wrong way, but people have a very clear vision if they're not big travelers that Spanish speaking people are usually like that lower income.
Yeah.
Like they think of like workers and things like that. So I love when you go to another country and you really feel like an equal with that person. And there's like really, really beautiful parts of the city and these highly educated people that speak a different language than you. And it just gives you that greater respect for them because I think there is still a big population here in the US that doesn't have maybe a full respect for each culture, right? Like you have a clear vision of what you think it is.
Yeah. The American exceptionalism is it's very pervasive here, especially, going to university. People think, this
Yeah.
is the peak of intellectualism
Right.
or, culture. And it's just not, that exists everywhere.
Right. And
it
I
just
love,
exists differently.
probably you saw this in Argentina as well, as like in Chile, in Santiago, I met people that loved where they lived and had no desire to leave.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas I think everyone thinks
Everyone
like
wants
it's
to come
third,
to the US.
yeah, or like
no, that's not true.
you go to Nicaragua and we had more situations where people were like, "Why are you visiting here?"
Yeah.
Like, why would you come to like a 400 person, tiny little pueblo in, the middle of a third world country? But in Chile, like you go there and they're like, oh, great. Like they're just as proud of their country. And that's what I think down in South America, like I was blown away by. And I haven't been to Colombia and Uruguay where you said it was a little underdeveloped. So it was nice hearing some of those stories too, where you still felt like people were very proud of where they lived.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just think that, that infrastructure development does not match necessarily like cultural development. And I think those countries like Colombia and Ecuador and Peru like still have a lot of that cultural development
Right.
that we can tend to disregard. And I don't think that they like dream of being in the US,
Yeah.
This is their culture, this is their people.
That's the most inspiring part, I think, because if you don't go to these places, you do kind of assume like, I don't know, like everyone wants to come here and visit here, but it's like, no, you like, because I know once you get that travel bug, like I want to move everywhere. Like, I don't know if I really want to live there, but like, I just want to explore more time there. And I totally had that sense when I went down to South America because you get places like Chile and Argentina that are so developed and beautiful and good economy and amazing like restaurants and bars and nightlife, but then you get to go to these little countries that almost take you back, like you said, like they're still using ancient language and things like that. And so it's that's what travel does, right? Like that's the whole point of travel.
Yeah, you get to step into someone else's shoes for a minute.
So now that you're back in your third year of college, are there any other big trips coming up? Or do you kind of got to finish this senior year?
We'll see. I think when I graduate, I'm going to try to do Southeast Asia.
Okay. Are you going to learn any?
I don't know.
Duolingo.
I don't know.
Start your Duolingo
that's
now.
a lot. Of course, because they speak a lot of different languages there. Whether
I know.
It be, Vietnamese or Cantonese or Mandarin.
Picking a first language to learn like Spanish is a really good one because it's very like worldwide. You can go to South America,
like what, 600
Central.
million people speak?
Yeah, and I mean in the U.S. it's huge
Yeah.
now, right? Like there's never been a regret knowing Spanish, right?
No.
Yeah.
Never.
Okay, last question I
Yeah.
have before I let you go is about the first episode you were ever on. We touched a lot on your upbringing with being bilingual and stuff. And now Jack's right at that point where he's starting to understand. So he fully comprehends Spanish now. Do you remember, probably your first memories would be more about like grade school, but do you remember ever your parents saying things like, show them how you speak Spanish
Yeah.
and putting you kind of on
Yeah.
display? And do you ever remember thinking like that was like annoying or you kind of backed up from it?
That's, I mean,
It's a very
that's
common
my
thing.
personality though.
Yeah?
I'm not one to be, like put on display.
Boast that
Yeah.
you're like, oh, look, let me show you my Spanish.
I'm
Yeah.
not a performer as much as, I definitely had friends
Maybe
who
your
would love
sister
to, yeah, who would love to speak Spanish or show off
Yeah.
their abilities like that.
Do you
but
remember making
was
it
uncomfortable for me most of the
Yeah,
time.
I was gonna say, do you remember making it not wanting to speak it if people asked you overly?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I had a couple words I would always say. I don't remember
Yep.
what it was, but yeah.
Yeah, that's just been a common question
like, say
with
something in Spanish. And you
and
gotta
you're
say
like,
a couple. Yeah.
adios.
Yeah.
Like you come up with your, la boca.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what I think that stage I'm at with Jack, I'm getting a lot of people going like, oh, show me what he can say,
Yeah.
and it's like they become this little like show,
Yeah.
like do that little trick again. And I think it can sometimes discourage that whole thing. So I was so curious to hear your thoughts on it, or like if you had any traumatizing memories.
Yeah.
Because your parents don't remember any traumatizing
Yeah.
memories.
No, it's fine, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
but no, it's good to feel like you're learning because you want to speak it, not because someone
Right.
else wants you
Is
to show
forcing
off
you
for
to.
it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming back on.
Thank you, Jenny.
I love hearing all about your travels, and maybe we can steal a few pictures from you so people can
Yeah,
see some of your hikes
absolutely.
and trips. Okay, gracias.
Yeah.
Ciao.